So I've been thinking a lot about work and idleness. You know, a common question people ask when they're meeting you or getting to know someone is, hey, what do you do for a living? And not always an easy question to answer. Some people are unemployed, and some people they don't really define what they do by work. So a question I kind of learned to ask to get around that is, what fills up your time? A good way for people to kind of identify with the work that they do, not necessarily in a job. And it's interesting to relay that to the times that we're in right now, where a lot of us are at home. Maybe people have lost their jobs as you've gone back to school. Our identities change in what we do. But we've been in a season where there's not as much to do. And with all that time, we begin to ask that question. Well, what am I filling my time with? Well, there's not as much work to be done. What fills my days? Am I getting lazy as we sit around and watch television or Netflix or YouTube all day? Is that beginning to be our identity? This idea of the work that we do, and in a season where that's getting hard to define, the Bible says a lot about work, and in some cases, not working. In 1 Thessalonians, Paul's first letter to the church in Thessalonica, he concludes his letter in chapter 5 with these verses. Now we ask you, brothers and sisters, to acknowledge those who work hard among you, who care for you in the Lord, and who admonish you. Hold them in the highest regard in love because of their work. Live in peace with each other. And we urge you, brothers and sisters, warn those who are idle and disruptive. Encourage the disheartened. Help the weak. Be patient with everyone. Make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always strive to do what is good for each other and for everyone else. See, Paul is writing to a church that was literally waiting for Jesus to come back. They thought Jesus was coming back any day now. So they sat around and waited. And maybe you feel like that. You're sitting around waiting for something to happen. But meanwhile, there are people out there who are still working, who are still serving actively. And Paul is telling them, hey, acknowledge those who are working hard in service. So as we sit in this season where what we do has changed, maybe we feel like we're sitting around waiting for something. How can we serve God? What can we do to make a difference? Instead of sitting around idle, instead of letting new habits and new disciplines begin to define, well, what fills up my days? Who am I? Am I just a guy who plays video games all day? Am I just a guy who watches Netflix all day? Am I a guy who well, who knows? How do you answer that question? What fills up your days? What is your work? And think about it. God acts, our faith is action. Don't sit idly by waiting for something to happen. How can we serve God in the work that we do? I'll see you soon.